Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. The only other bonsai tree that I'm actually going to do a reasonable amount of work on is this one. The others may get a minor trim, but they're not really going to get any work this year. They're going to be allowed to grow. So this one I would like to allow to grow, but it's in a weak state. If you neglect a conifer, trying to get it back is one of the hardest things to do because they don't like back budding. They object to it. What they like to do is push all their energy up the top of the tree and grow straight up. That's what they want to do. And the object is to stop them doing that. There are various ways. I could do with being a foot taller so that I could look down on the apex, but I'm short. There's not a lot I can do about that. And no, I'm not going to get something to stand on. Right, where's my camera? This tree's basic shape is to give an impression of a very ancient tree on a mountainside, and the weather comes in from here and it's just knocked the tree over that way, and in an ideal world it would have a nice pad here, another one here, and then the apex tapering down towards those two, making a nice rounded shape in that direction. And the poor branch over here that gets beaten back by the weather should be quite compact, quite close to the trunk. Yeah? And its nickname is Lightning Strike. Basically that gives an impression that it was once hit by lightning, took off a main branch and carved out the bark. What happened in reality was I collected this tree off the side of a forest track. And it's a place I used to walk quite frequently, and I noticed that the forest vehicles were whacking this every time they went past. That's how it got damaged. And I just asked, do you actually want that tree in this part of the forest? And he said, one of the guys said, what tree? Like, so they obviously knew it was there. And basically they said no, it's in the way anyway. It's eventually one of the tractors is going to go over it and just break it off. So I said, well, can I dig it up and take it? And they said, yeah, help yourself. So it was a collected tree. So it's a native Scots pine. And neglect on this one has been costly because I've lost the compactness of the pads. They've opened out and spread, and now they don't look anything like what they should, but the apex is coming back quite nicely, slowly but nicely. This is now the third year from when I started thinking about rescuing it, and it was repotted 2 years ago around this time. Conifers tend to come back into growth later than deciduous ones, certainly later than my maples. So my objective today is to take away this tree's ability to grow upwards, and these are the more vigorous growths. So unfortunately they've got to come off. So it's what you can do on conifers is something called bud selection. So when you get 2 or 3 buds, you can just knock one off. Yeah, they just fall off like that if you give them a gentle push at this time of year. That leaves one. But I don't even want one on that branch, I want none. What I want it to do is push this one. So I'm actually going to take that back half the length of the branch in the hope that it will produce some back budding. And that's the objective with most of these strong growths. Again, working on anything pointing upwards, just basically take them back. So I'm not doing bud selection, I'm actually taking the growth off. So the only way it can grow now is to produce some more shoots, or work on the smaller, weaker ones that it's got. And it will push its energy up into this region, so that will happen. Crossing branches and worrying about things like that I'll do later when I've got sufficient growth to work with. Now this little area here, I took that one off last year, and that one promptly shot out. So I've got a little back bud here, a double growth here, which I'm actually going to let go, one round here and one that failed, so that one can come off. There's no point in leaving dead wood, it will clutter the place up. So I'm literally working round individually. That's weak but can be allowed to stay. That one we've dealt with. This one needs to push out. We've taken the top off. Hopefully that will produce a back bud. Now moving round to here, I've got a lovely cluster here, but when it grows this year it's going to stick out a little bit too far unless the rest of it catches up, but I'm going to give it a chance. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 growths in that area, 6 counting this one. Yeah, but I've got a low growth here which I'd like to back bud, so I'll take the tip out of that one. If you trim conifers with scissors, take great care not to cut the needles if you can. Get in at the angle the needles are and try and just trim the branch. If you cut the needles they turn brown and they look horrible. So you just got to try and avoid it. Right, coming on round here, what happened here then? This is a long skinny branch, but luckily it's masked by this growth here, so looking at it from the front this isn't too bad. I've got 2 growths there and a very long skinny branch. And it just about fits, so that can stay. Here I have a strong branch. I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buds on the tip of that. So I'm going to take that back as far as I dare, leaving 1 bud if I possibly can. Actually there's 1 each side, I can leave 2. But it's not going to be easy because it's a cluster. So I'm going to go in there and snip and see what the hell happens. And hopefully I get left with 2. Yes. That was a bit of luck. I've now got 2 left on that growth, so that's good. Here, this is all weak. That can just be left and allowed to grow if it will. So I'm just taking old needles off where I see them. They just make it look untidy. Another trick for getting buds on a conifer is to actually pluck some needles. You just grab hold of them and bend them back and pull them off. And the damaged area will sometimes generate excuse me, generate a bud. Not always, but sometimes. Right, where are we now then? That can be left to grow. So can that. Right, I've got a couple of big strong bits around the back here which are no good to man the beast, so they need to come right back in. I have to bear in mind I am looking from the back of the tree now, not the front. This branch split in 2, which was very nice of it, but it's taking energy. You can see that's a much stronger branch, longer needles and much bigger buds. So I'm going to take that one back quite a way, and hopefully new buds that it might produce will point upwards. Fill in that little gap there. That's quite weak, that'll have to be left. Another big strong one here, pointing out backwards. So we'll take that one back a bit. Which takes the whole bud off. And another strong one here. Take that halfway back. Alright, that little cluster can be left. So that's the apex done. Don't do any more. If I take too much off, the tree might actually give up that area and actually say, blow it, I'll push all the energy elsewhere and stop growing. It can happen, though it just stops growing completely in a certain area. So you've got to leave some energy in it. Right, let's work on this bit next. This I really want to push back in. I managed to get 1 tiny little back bud there, but I need more. So I'm going to have to push that quite hard, unfortunately. And see if it will do it this time. Now this one pushing this way has an upward pointing bud. It's got 2 buds. So I can just do that with my thumb and leave the one that points upwards, and that will just grow. And then this again is quite strong, so we'll push that one back. When you're pushing back branches on a conifer like this, certainly with the Scots pine, if you go back into old wood, in other words not last year's but the year before's growth, you're far less likely to get anything happen. Whereas if you trim into what is last year's growth, it's still fresh and it's still possible to push out. Now this little bit here, I'm well pleased with this little bit. I've got a shoot there, 3 back buds there, and this branch shot out. So that bit's not doing bad, but this bit's a bit strong. So we'll take that one back a bit. And down here, this is supposed to be, even though this is a single branch, the idea was to get it to look like a piece down here with a little pad and a piece higher up. But they've sort of grown together to a degree. But the thing that's spoiling the look of the back of the tree is this bit. So that's probably the only large branch that's actually going to come off. There's no point in trying to get that to back bud, it's far too weak. So we'll take that one right off. Because that's just sticking out far too far, just doesn't look right. And I'm using my knob cutter to dig into that part of the branch so that the bark will callus over. You haven't seen one of them before, they've got curved blades so they allow you to dig rather than a flat cut. Right, that's that side done then, there's not much more I can do with that. I still think that bit's a bit strong. Now we'll see what it does. What would it look like without the branch completely? Too bare. So I've got to leave it. Do you know what? I'm actually going to take that off. I've got 2 little buds here, and it would be much better if those grew than had this bit sticking out far too far. So I'm actually going to take that chunk right off. A bit drastic, but that's where it's going to go. I won't cut too close to the bud in case it dies back. And then if these 2 bits grow, that will make that shape better. And this bit down here is not good. There's not a lot I can do with it. All I can do is hope it grows and pushes out some new growth. It's got one tiny little bud down the bottom there. I could put some wire on that one and lower it, which is how I got it in the first place, or I could hire this one to get some separation there, but we'll see what they do. As I say, I don't want to go too mad this year. Right, this pad here is just spread out. All the growth is round there with nothing coming up the middle. So the goal is to try and push it back harder. So it's a matter of looking for vigorous growth and taking it off. Don't take off too much though, there's not a lot of strength. That's died back, that branch, so you can go, as have you. That's what happens if you allow a tree to, what I call, escape and grow away. The idea is to get the new growths, push them back a little bit and double them. So where there were 10, the following year you get like 15 to 20, and then the following year you get like 30, and you end up with a dense mass, a nice matted pad with like a hand underneath showing the structure of the branches that lead up to that pad. That's the ultimate goal. But once you let one go, it's very difficult to get it back. But so I just need to have a look at this. All this growth is growing away. The strength is back here, along with the cobwebs. But I do have 2 little buds on that branch and a 3rd one there. So that one's coming off. That'll take, actually if I take it right off it won't draw the sap. I'll take the end off so that there's still some sap being pulled. Otherwise those buds might just die off. Same here, I've got a couple of little buds but I'm going to have to leave the end. Little one here. We'll take the strength out of that one and leave one. That'll be the sap drawer, the one that keeps pulling the sap into that part of the tree, because it's still got all of its growth and its leading bud. And those 3 are starting to get quite close. If I close that gap there, that'll spoil the look. But I still want, I'd love to get some buds on here. Whether I can or not, I don't know. But what I can do is the one that's pointing towards the trunk, take the lead off. And then possibly later in the year, if these 2 take off, actually take them back halfway through the year when they've got strength in them. and they will back bud then. Now this lower one, I've got two problem branches on here. This is one of them. I ought to put a little bit of wire on there and just centralise that. But I'm a clip and grow bonsai person nowadays. I don't like wiring trees. I used to put wire on them all over the place, but I don't bother anymore. I let them do their own thing. What I'm going to do with that is take the largest piece off, and that will draw some sap and maybe back bud. This bit's not too bad. Quite happy with that bit. And this is the other problem branch because it's heading straight across. And it's got 3 buds on the end, so that's quite a strong branch. So I'm only going to tip the end of that. Just by taking the end off and leaving loads of needles, it'll still pull some sap. And that's about as much as I can do with this one. So you can see the goal, but I can only do it in words because actually there's another very strong one there. I think we'll have to take him off. And that will leave some. That tiny little branch there has got 3 buds on it. Take the centre one off, leaving the 2 to go off in either direction. Yeah. So where there was 1, there will be 2, and they'll go off in opposite directions. I'm just using my thumbnail to take that bud off. Now I've got one going there and one going there. What have we got on that one? We've got one there. I think that's about as much as I'm going to be able to do. So the ultimate goal is for this to fill out and just become more solid. Doesn't need to get any taller or any wider or anything, it just needs to be more solid. And it's starting, it's getting there, slowly but surely. This is still a weak pad and very open. This could do with 3 times as many lead growths on it, and it could take 3 years to achieve that. But ultimately this comes down to here and stops, this takes over and stops, and then this takes over and stops. And I may well literally have to put some wire. But what I could do is just put a little piece of wire around there and just strap it to the trunk to hold it down so that it gives more gap, more impression of being swept away by the weather. Every time I do that. Okay, so that's about it. And then as I said, that's the balanced part of the tree, weathered in that direction. And this bit is its last remnants of surviving effort to fight that weather back. So this needs to be nice and tight and rounded as if hit by the weather constantly and tailing off. So that's the goal, but it's quite a few years away from that. The 4 or 5 years where this was neglected has spoilt the tree, and it's going to take a lot of effort to bring it back to how it once looked. When I collected it, it was nothing. The branches were, I mean, this branch didn't curve down here, that was pulled down. This one didn't have a nice twist in it. Yeah, all that was applied. I can show you. These are wire scars here. That's where the tree was wired heavily to get that bend in it. Yeah, but on a conifer, they grow out. You do that to a maple tree, your scars will be there for 15-20 years and may never go away. But on a conifer, because they've got this gnarly look to them, it does grow away. It does eventually disappear. And I do have some special stuff for this, which every couple of years I paint it on. It's a wood preserver and it has a bleaching effect. So along with the sun, it keeps that white, makes it look sort of natural. But it also is a wood preserver, otherwise some rot could set in. But you can see the bark's desperately trying to grow back over it, so every now and again I sort of trim that back a bit. But at the moment I'm quite happy with the look of that trunk, it's not bad. So that's that one, Scots pine, collected tree, and quite a bit of work to do on this one, quite a bit. I've just seen another bud that's coming off. The dominant bud on there can be replaced by 3. If I'd left that dominant bud on, those 3 would probably not grow much and this one would rocket away. So that will put a bit more energy there. That's about as much as I want to do this year at this time. as the year gets to about July, heading towards August, I might have another look at it and see if any particular growths have whooshed off, you know, far too vigorous, and then they can be taken back. And at that time of year, you're more likely to get back budding because you're taking back fresh growth. There's still energy coming up through it. So that's that one done. To put some vigour in this tree, it ought to go in a pot twice as big. Oh, you can't see the pot, can you? But relative to the tree size, the pot is in proportion as a bonsai. But as a tree that's trying to grow vigorously, the pot's too small. So it's a happy balance. If I put that tree in a pot twice as big, it would take off. Yeah? And that's what some people would do. Some people grow their bonsai in a bucket for 3 or 4 years to really get them going, knowing that eventually the roots can be trimmed right back and put in a smaller pot, and then the following year in an even smaller pot until you get the pot in proportion with the tree. But to get the vigour in the tree initially, they don't restrict the roots. But then I wouldn't have anything that looked like a bonsai. It would be a tree in a bucket. Which I probably would totally ignore because it would look horrible. Anyway, that's that one. Another bonsai video for those that are interested. Totally different technique really with pines. With a Scots pine, you only get one flush of growth in the spring, where all the terminal buds push on and grow little candles, and then the needles open up, and that's it. Doesn't do that again that year, but you can make adjustments during that year. Yeah, but unlike a deciduous tree, you know, if you pinch a branch back, it'll shoot out the same year. In fact, it'll do it in a few weeks. So you've got continuous growth on a deciduous tree that you can keep at all year while it's growing. But with a conifer, you only get one go, which makes it a lot slower, you know, much slower process. And I've just spotted a dead branch. How the hell did I miss that? I can't believe I missed that. That needs coming off. That serves no purpose at all. Can't believe I missed that. And then tidy up the wound so that it doesn't stick out. It becomes nice and flat. And then the bark will grow over it, make it look a bit smoother. Knobbly gnarly bits on a conifer are actually quite attractive. But they can look quite ugly on a deciduous tree. So that's it so far. If you want to look back over my videos, you can probably find what I did to this at this point last year, and then the year before where I actually repotted it. They're in there somewhere. If you're interested, as I say, I'm confident that probably not that many proportionally out of the people who watch my channel are that interested in the bonsai. But I know some people are. Some people have been asking me, when am I going to do my bonsai trimming? So, you know, it's of interest to some, not all. So that's that one done. See you next time. Bye for now.